I was playing the role of a woman experiencing domestic violence in an event, and it landed me in the police station because someone tried to help me out. The cop looked at me with a face like thunder. After we broke up, you ended up with this kind of guy? I said, you know me, I'm a hopeless romantic. Karina, you gotta make it more believable. Pregnant women protect their bellies, not their heads. When you pretend to hit a pregnant woman, go hard. It has to stir the emotions of the crowd. And you, camera guy, capture the reactions of bystanders. Alright, action. I got into character quickly, pretending I had a big pregnant belly, and Henry started miming hitting me. The cameraman gave us an okay signal, and Henry got going with his act. I cried out a few times, but before I could really deliver my performance, a furious bystander tackled Henry to the ground. Dang, things went haywire. Still hitting women in the 21st century? The guy shouted, pressing his shoe into Henry's back. Don't worry, miss. We'll make this guy rot in jail. The passers-by were more enraged than I expected. I panicked. No, sir, ma'am, you've got it all wrong. We're just acting. Girl, this jerk ain't worth it. You deserve better. Of course, I deserve better. But the thing is, we're filming for a street documentary. Half an hour later, at T-City's police station. A familiar voice, a mix of shock, anger, disbelief, and a touch of disappointment. I was stunned. Simon. I looked up and there he was, my ex-boyfriend from less than 6 months ago, now in a cop uniform holding a file. Karina. He called out my name, then glanced at my fake pregnant belly. You left me for this lowlife? Henry, who was slumped on a bench, sprang up and raged. Promptly, another officer pinned him back down, hitting a pregnant woman? You're an animal. Henry resumed, struggling at those words. Watching it all, I saw I needed to set things straight, so I stood up to calm the room. But trying to stand, my foot cramped from sitting too long, and I ended up kneeling in front of the officer who was holding Henry. The young officer's eyes turned misty. Ma'am, it's not worth it for this guy. You deserve so much more. I sighed internally. Oh, this is a mess. Simon's irritated voice came from behind. Are you just going to let him bully you like this? Memories kicked in, and I replied without thinking, Officer, you know me, I'm a hopeless romantic. Simon took me to a separate interrogation room. How long? He sat across from me, voice dripping with frustration. Holding this massive fake belly, I instinctively rubbed my aching back. Before I could answer, a gray cushion appeared in my field of vision. Use this. Simon darkly forced the cushion behind me. Feeling cornered, I shifted back a little. The round fake belly sat between us, loudly pronouncing itself. Simon snorted heavily, leaning against the table. Karina, are you blind? Why a man like this? You're even having his baby? You used to be scared of pain. I thought bitterly to myself, I was ready to have your baby once, but you didn't want that. Speak up. He snapped, startling me out of my thoughts. Caught off guard, our eyes met and held for a tension-filled second. Yeah, right. He looked so defeated. Officer, you seem upset. When you told me you wouldn't marry me, you didn't look this flustered. So now you've decided to wreck it all? Simon bit out each word, pressing on. Do you remember how hard you worked to get into T University? All the effort you put in to change your life? His voice softened, his words cutting at me like scissors. Do you remember your dream future? Each word shredded my heart. I averted my gaze, my eyes full of unshed tears. The future I imagined once had him in it. But he refused. After a silence, I spoke. I should correct you, officer. I didn't beg to break up with you, you shut me out. I still have my pride. He laughed coldly, retreating to his chair. How far along are you? Thinking it over, I dodged. That's personal. When did he start hitting you? I paused. Simon slammed his pen down. When are you planning to divorce? I was taken aback. You want me to be a single mom? Considering the belly looked at least 5 or 6 months along, I couldn't just undo it. Curious, I watched him, almost hearing his teeth grind. When the kid's born. Officer. The interrogation room door knocked. Misunderstanding, total misunderstanding. I saw Henry was no longer confined, meaning the truth had come out. In front of everyone, I lifted my shirt, unhooked the fake belly, and set it aside. Then I tilted my head towards Simon, smiling innocently. Officer, what were you saying just now? After leaving the station, I said goodbye to my coworkers and sat alone by the street, removing my makeup. In the mirror, my face was covered in fake bruises, looking painful. A car skidded to a stop in front of me. A black car, the window rolled down, revealing Simon's grim face, still stormy despite removing his cop uniform. Get in. Like I'd listened to that criminal interrogation tone. I tossed my makeup wipes into the trash, turning to walk the opposite way. The black SUV trailed beside me. After a few steps, I stopped. Officer, anything else? Get in, he repeated without even sparing a glance. The cars behind began honking like crazy, but he ignored them. I had no choice but to open the door and climb in. I had just buckled up when he slammed on the gas. 10 minutes later, the car halted outside my apartment complex. I sighed in relief. So, the officer was just giving me a ride home. That's dedication for you, a true public servant. Karina, he said, turning to look at me. Why'd you lie to me? I was taken aback. I couldn't recall deceiving him. Why pretend you're married? That you're a victim of domestic abuse? Even faking a pregnancy? He paused, taking a deep breath. Why? I chuckled. Officer, you're overthinking it. I was just gathering some street material, shooting a video. Who's lying to you? His gaze was intense, making me feel a bit uneasy. Officer, don't tell me you still have feelings for me? I raised an eyebrow, trying to suppress the faint hope in my heart. But after a few moments he simply said, you misunderstood. I'm just concerned about the case. My little plan dashed, my face stiffened. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a familiar figure approaching. I quickly got out and jogged over to him. David, do me a favor. Help block some unwanted attention from me. David almost turned to leave right away, but I quickly added, I'll stay away from your wife for a month. He stopped in his tracks, holding up 2 fingers. 2 months. Deal. David was married to my best friend Clara, and they had just tied the knot. Their journey hadn't been a smooth one. I sighed, telling David, since you don't know him, just pretend to be my boyfriend and wave him off. I promise no bothering Clara for 2 months. Fine. David walked beside me toward the 2 parked SUV. The person in the car looked at us. I put on a triumphant face, ready to speak when Simon beat me to it. David? Aren't you supposed to be on your honeymoon? David was silent for a moment, glanced my way, then decisively stepped back and said to the car, yeah, leaving tonight. Simon's eyes darted between us a couple times, asking David, do you know each other? David shook his head. Not really. She pulled me over to fend off unwanted attention. Officer, are you close with her? Need to arrest her or anything? I was so shocked I could hardly contain it. David. When you and Clara were at odds, you never said we weren't close. Weird attention. Before I could look away from David, a cold voice sounded near my ear. Simon turned his attention to me. I'm your attention. Weird attention, David added. Thanks for that, I muttered. After David left, Simon followed me home. I wanted to refuse, but he still had my mom's number. One call to her and she lost it. Karina. You don't have to come home today, but if you dare not let Simon in, you're in big trouble. When Simon and I were together, my mom was eager for us to wed. He had a great background, money, looks, and a stable job. But I hinted a few times, and he never made a move. He even started distancing himself from me. I panicked, went to his house, and ended up trying to force the issue. That's when he threw me out. He said, "Karina, can you not be such a hopeless romantic?" He was right. I was. Being together for 5 years, I always put him first. I forgot I graduated from a top university, choosing instead to be his unpaid housekeeper. Though he didn't like it, I wanted to be with him, to make his time away from policing pleasant and light. Police work is tough, so I wanted him to have a bit of personal time. But what did I get in return? He called me a hopeless romantic. After that day, I broke up with him. "There's a case at the station I need to handle. We'll talk later," he had said. I naively thought he would come back to me after things settled. I even fantasized that he wouldn't let me go. But day after day passed, half a month, and not a word from him. So, I deleted his contacts and vanished from his life. Those days, I pestered all my friends, crying and screaming about Simon at every turn. My words were harsh, wishing him ill, even to the point of "why don't you just die" in my rants. Because of this, a video still exists on my best friend's phone. In it, I curse him with, "Go to hell, you dog." But also clasp my hands, "Take it back, it doesn't count." Because I knew Simon was a cop, and if something happened, it could be dangerous. I hated him, sure, but I didn't really want him dead. "What are you thinking about?" Simon suddenly asked. "Your mom's waiting for us." Damn him, phrasing it like that. I shot him a look. "I'm thinking about how soon you might kick the bucket." His smirk froze, and suddenly he was silent. Minutes later he spoke, his voice hoarse. "But you used to climb thousands of steps up that mountain to pray for me," he said. "Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That mountain was so high that my legs stopped obeying me at the end. Sometimes the weather was so bad that I'd be soaked, hot and cold at the same time, feeling like I went from a sauna straight into a freezer. But kneeling before the Buddha, I'd always wish for the same simple thing. For Simon's safety." I took a deep breath. That's why I'll never forget the days when my genuine feelings were just trampled on. Again, he stayed silent, eyes so dark, like he was trying to see through me. "Still heading to my place, officer?" By now, if he didn't back off, he wouldn't be the Simon I knew. He was always so full of himself, rejecting others but never being rejected. Yet just then my mom called again. "Karina, I'm warning you. If you break up with Simon again, you might as well not come home." With the phone on speaker, Simon heard every word. "Come on. You know how your mom is." 3 When Simon walked into my house, Mom had already sliced up some fruit. She welcomed him like he was her own son, inviting him to the couch and chatting warmly for quite a while before she remembered I was still there. "Karina, don't just stand there, pour Simon some water." I was about to refuse, but Simon got up and poured himself a glass from the thermos on the table. "I'll do it myself." I wanted to head back to my room, but Mom shot me a look that practically chained me to the couch, forcing me to listen to their conversation. A few words in, she got straight to the point. "Simon, I never agreed with your breakup back then. Karina is impulsive, don't hold it against her." "Auntie." Simon took a sip of water and, rare enough, said something on my behalf. "Don't blame Karina. Breaking up was on me." Mom visibly froze at that, glancing between me and Simon before nervously standing up. "I've got soup on the stove, I should check on it." She took a couple steps then turned back. "Karina, didn't you say you were the one who wanted the breakup?" My reply was stuck in my throat, couldn't get it out or swallow it back down. I initiated the breakup, but I wasn't the one who wanted it. "It's my fault," Simon said calmly, his tone as smooth as a breeze. Mom was caught off guard, clearly beyond what she could comprehend. Simon finished his tea and stood up, telling Mom, "Auntie, I came to clear things up. It wasn't Karina who gave up on us, I was the one who didn't appreciate her." "So, what are you saying now?" Mom was a bit bewildered, almost just echoing Simon's words. "Do you want to get back with Karina?" I looked at him, my heart unexpectedly hanging on his next words. After a pause, he replied softly, no. After Simon left, I angrily turned to Mom. Mom. What are you doing? I don't need him. You're crazy to bring him here. You want me to embarrass myself more? She was taken aback from my outburst, then sat across from me looking defeated. Karina, I saw how much you suffered after the breakup. I thought you might want to start over with him. I just wanted to help. I was choked up, unable to say anything more. It's my fault, she said, looking apologetic. I met her gaze and noticed she had more wrinkles now. Mom's getting old. I shouldn't keep making her worry. Simon's no echoed again in my ear. I suppressed the bitterness, forcing a smile as I said, it's okay, kind of my fault too, for still making you worry even now. By the way, didn't you say that guy Auntie mentioned seems nice? When can we meet him? With Mom and Auntie setting things up, I met this setup date. Right outside my company building. They chose this location because Aunt said he's interested in my work. Just hearing that was enough to dampen my interest in the date. But I should go, for Auntie's sake, she means well. So, reluctantly, I went to the meeting spot. The guy looked alright, on the clean-cut side. He already got 2 coffees on the table, so it seemed like he arrived early, which slightly improved my impression of him. But after just a sip, I realized something was off. I visit this cafe often, this coffee was not up to the usual standard. Excuse me, barista, I turned to call them over. Hi, is this coffee? Wait, hold on. The guy suddenly cut me off. Don't call them. I was confused. Why? This coffee isn't right, it's not how it normally is. You don't know, this cafe is really expensive. I was thirsty earlier, drank mine. I thought you weren't used to coffee, so I poured half of mine in yours with some hot water. No big deal, right? I was stunned, unable to react for a while. He continued, your name's Karina, right? I'm John. Your aunt mentioned you earn a pretty good salary, but I believe women should stay home with the kids. My expression twitched, stuck on how to respond. Was I really on a date? I glanced around, double-checking I hadn't somehow warped back a century. That's such a dated view. I pushed the coffee back across the table. Staying home with kids is an option, not a shackle. You might want to read a bit more. If you want to work, that's okay too, John said. I'll quit my job, someone's gotta be at home. I was a tad surprised, almost seen it as open-minded until he added, but I gotta say up front, I don't cook, clean, or want to raise kids. When that happens, my mom can help, but mostly it'll be on you since you're the mom. My brain went blank. He kept rambling. I was trying to figure if I did something to tick my aunt off. How about September 19th? He suddenly asked. I completely lost track of whatever he'd been muttering about. For what? To get married. He said. I'm not in a rush, but someone your age can't wait forever. I'll handle your salary post-marriage, you just focus on work, and I've got home covered. I wanted to split his head open to see what's inside. No, thanks, I quickly replied. I have a boyfriend, family doesn't approve. Hope you understand. He looked alarmed. Who? How old? What does he do? Better than me? Silence on my part, with Simon being the only one occupying my thoughts. 28, a cop. John went silent, his gaze shifting past me. Isn't that him? Turning back to follow his stare, my heart skipped and then plummeted. John, when did he show up? John didn't say a word before Simon's voice piped up from behind. When you said you had a boyfriend. Me, I'm done. Help. John, I'm done. Help. He howled almost in unison with me, leaving me speechless just after I had sighed. But what really left me in disbelief was Simon, right in front of me, pulling out a silver pair of handcuffs and slapping them on my date. I was stunned. Simon, seriously? I was just on a blind date. Even if he's a bit fishy, isn't this too much? Simon, he interrupted me, he's a wanted criminal. I turned to look at John, my head echoing with the sound of my metaphorical rock shattering. During my second innocent visit to the station, all I could think was how unlucky I was. This time, the officer questioning me wasn't Simon but the young officer who'd handled Henry last time. Back again, huh? He sat across from me, smirking. Had the kid yet? I gave a helpless smile, saying, the kid is dumped outside the precinct, 200 meters to the right in a trash can. Want to go rescue it? He chuckled and got back to questioning me. How did you meet Mike? Who's Mike? He glanced at me, your date. His real name's Mike, goes by John in T-City. Oh, I replied. My aunt set it up. Wendy? He asked. I was surprised, how'd you know? She got swindled for $200K, just reported it. I was shocked, my aunt also went on a date with him? He chuckled, looking down, she took him in as a godson. Oh. Just as we were moving on, a knock on the door interrupted us. It was Simon. What's up? The officer asked. I could have sworn Simon gave me a glance. Where's the recorder? Simon asked after a pause. I could almost see the young officer's frustration as he blinked, in the meeting room. Simon coolly nodded and left. The questioning resumed. 10 minutes later, there was another knock. Simon was back. The air conditioner's remote in the case discussion room is missing. You were the last one there. The officer was losing patience, his temples visibly pulsing. We don't usually take things from there. Can you check again? Thanks, Simon said, turning away. The questioning continued with difficulty. Around the same time lapse, Simon was at the door again. My new handcuffs are missing. They said you tried them. The officer's grip on the doorknob tightened. You mean I tried your handcuffs? They're good looking. Handcuffs are handcuffs. Why would I try them? When the questioning resumed, the young officer was clearly thrown off, looking at me with a hint of resignation. You're close with the officer? Does that relate to the case? I shot back. He shrugged, not really. But you see, he clearly doesn't want me interrogating you. My heart skipped a beat. But it's fine. You're not involved in the case anyway. Just need to go through formalities. I relaxed a bit. Go ahead. He raised an eyebrow, twirling a pen. So you're not close to him? Leaving the station, I ran into Simon again on the side of the road. He looked even colder than last time. Get in the car. I was texting, listening to a voice message from Clara. He's definitely worried you'd be scared during questioning. Trust me. I quickly turned off the screen, but it was too late. Simon parked in a secluded spot. The air was tense. He suddenly asked, you dating? I looked at him. You're a cop. You care about that? He shot me a warning glance. Karina. I pursed my lips and kept quiet. Simon's always been a bit of an arrogant jerk. Stuck up, always looking down on others. I'm not dealing with him. The second absurd interaction post-breakup ended awkwardly. 2 weeks later, I ran into that young officer at my apartment complex. He recognized me immediately, calling out as he rushed over. The way he moved, I almost thought I'd broken the law. What a coincidence, you live here too. He pointed at my complex, looking excited. I forced a nod, my mouth twitching. It was awkward. Seeing he seemed to want to chat, I glanced at a nearby cafe. Wanna sit for a bit? His eyes lit up. Sure. He introduced himself as Ken. Through him, I learned Simon was off on another dangerous mission. He also mentioned my date was part of a fraud gang, with their hideout in another province's mountains. My eyelids twitched. That area often had earthquakes. Karina, you listening? He waved a silver fork, eyes wide. Startled, I asked, sorry, what? Clearing his throat, he leaned closer. Do you have a congenital heart condition? I spat on my coffee, surprised. How'd you know? He clapped his hands, triumphant. Simon's ex had heart troubles. It scared him so bad that despite being a strict atheist, he tried climbing a mountain to pray. It was too dark, he fell into a pit and spent the night there, got sick. That was you, right? He asked, almost sure. I was surprised. When? About a year ago, he said. My heart quickened. I did have a serious heart issue a year ago, nearly didn't make it through the night. But Simon never told me he'd climb thousands of steps for me. You didn't know? He let his spoon drop, it clanged against the cup. He sounded shocked. Simon was in a cave on the mountain back then, caught some virus, and was frail for a long time. You didn't know? Ken sighed deeply. The day he was rescued, you came back to life. That's also when he bought that jade pendant. He didn't believe in Buddhism before, but he started after that. I stood there stunned. I didn't know any of this. For a long time, I asked hoarsely, and his health? Not good, he's got some lingering issues, he said. He refused medical attention back then. As soon as he woke up at the hospital, he left. No matter how we tried to persuade him, it was useless. He felt like the Buddha transferred your pain to him, and he was willing to bear it. I couldn't accept this sudden overturning of my long-held beliefs. Absurd, right? Ken smiled helplessly, as if reminding me or perhaps just speaking to himself, Karina, Simon is such a materialist. Listening to him, it felt like nails were being driven into my heart. Every breath, every heartbeat, made me want to scream. My voice turned dry and strange, but I asked him to marry me back then, and he refused. What were you thinking? He watched you being wheeled into the ore half dead. Turning to Buddha was the last resort he thought of. He was powerless. You were in the best hospital in the country. All he could do was pray. Ken slowly took a sip of coffee and said, You thought there'd be pretty rocks or fairies in that cave on the mountain? Wrong, Karina. There were deadly bacteria. Inhale them, and you're infected. Simon was living with the mindset of a man preparing to die. He wouldn't listen to anyone. Meeting my eyes, Ken said, he prayed for the Buddha to exchange his life for yours. In his mind, marrying you would only harm you. My nose stung, and my voice choked up. Fighting the urge to run to Simon, I asked, why didn't he tell me? Ken finished his coffee. He's so proud. Don't you know him by now? So why are you telling me all this? Ken hesitated, awkwardly saying, help me explain to him. After I tried out his handcuffs, I put them back in the box. I didn't lose them. Coming out of the coffee shop, I headed straight for the police station. Feeling more aggrieved as I thought about it, I wondered, Simon, you arrogant fool, who do you think you are to take all this on alone? Miss, don't do anything rash. Life is long, there'll be tough times, the driver said, watching me through the rearview mirror, his voice a bit flustered at my tear-streaked face. Thanks, I'm okay. Oh, if you're okay, why are you going to the police station? Don't worry, I understand. Don't cry. The ride's on the house. I forced a smile, thinking, if everyone were as kind as this driver, being a cop wouldn't be so dangerous. Soon after getting out, a middle-aged officer dragged me into the station's lobby. Don't cry, miss. Tell the officer what's wrong, he said, giving me tissues and reassuring me, good girl, tell me what happened. My almost calm emotions surged again. Sniffling, I started, I need to find Simon. His brows furrowed, why? I'm his superior, coming to me is more effective. Realizing the misunderstanding, I quickly wiped away tears. Sir, I'm not here to report anything. I'm looking for Simon. The smile faded from his face as he said wryly, more flags for him? Before I could reply, he half joked, he's got a bunch of girls all hung up on him. His office has more flags than mine. Simon's not here, he said casually, seeing I wasn't there for something urgent, he's out on a task. Don't bother him for a couple of days. Remembering Ken's words about a dangerous mission, I grew nervous. Is it in the neighboring province? His face changed. giving me a second look. You're not that heartless ex of Simon's, are you? I froze. He almost got killed because of you, and then you dumped him. Yet, we're not allowed to say a thing about it. Shaking his head, he sighed, Simon, he's really lovesick. A total romantic. Desperation filled me. Where's Simon? I need to find him. You dare, he said sharply, he's on a mission. You think you can just act as you please? I was stunned, feeling weak all over. For 3 days, at home, I finally heard news of Simon, on TV. A major earthquake hit the neighboring province. Casualties were severe. I jumped up from the sofa, eyes glued to the name on the screen. That's where Simon went. I started trembling uncontrollably, my heart aching fiercely. In my sight, my mom rushed in from the kitchen, pulled out the pendant from her neck, and pushed a pill into my mouth. I tried to swallow it, but my consciousness grew hazy. Before closing my eyes, I saw Mom's tear-stricken face as she calmly gave our address over the phone to the doctor. It felt like I was dreaming forever. I saw a giant lamp, blinding me. I saw the year my dad died, my mom holding me at his grave, promising to take care of me forever. Then, I saw Simon in a vast, empty cave, bowing deeply to the mountaintop. He's so proud, he believes only in himself. Yet, for me, he once knelt to something he scorned. In the raging storm, he could barely stand. I can't die. If I do, what about Mom? If I do, what about Simon? Simon, he's such a romantic. The patient has a strong will to live, the brain is quite active. Let's observe a bit more, should be okay, I heard that. Followed by the chaos of the hospital. Flashing lights, and I woke up. My face wet with tears. Simon, you better be all right. After they took out the 4, the first thing I did was change out of that hospital gown and into my own clothes. Then I grabbed a taxi to my favorite mountain. It was raining again, so I bought one of those disposable ponchos. There were lots of people around, each lost in their thoughts. I started hiking up the familiar trail. It was still early, and I was moving pretty quickly. Soon, my clothes were soaked with sweat and sticking to me. It was uncomfortable. The poncho was leaking too, and it felt like I was wearing clothes made of lead. Halfway up, I pulled out my phone. Just a few missed calls from Mom. I texted her back, I'm okay, don't worry. Then, I pushed myself to keep going. The wind picked up in the second half of the hike. It was sharp, like knives. Hiking really wore me out. I tried thinking about the past to distract myself. Remembering before Simon and I split, I used to cling to him a lot. But his job was unique, and he'd often not reply right away. I'd call Clara and vent about it. Said some pretty harsh things. Once, someone overheard and thought Simon and I had some terrible vendetta. I chuckled at that thought. Then I remembered Clara's words, no matter how much you curse, when you're praying, you still wish him well. The smile froze on my face. I looked up, and there was still a long way to go. I was winded. As I slowed down, my heart started to hurt a little. By the time I reached the top, it was evening. I bought incense and candles and knelt in front of the Buddha. I prayed for Simon's safety. Prayed for Karina's safety. A familiar voice echoed the prayer. I jolted, immediately looking toward the voice. Time felt like it slowed down. At the edge of my vision, someone turned around, just as surprised. After a quiet second, we spoke at the same time. Aren't you supposed to be in the next state? Aren't you supposed to be having surgery? He answered, mission finished, they let me go early. Sitting outside the temple, he looked tense, with flushed ears. My eyes watered. I hadn't even asked anything when he trembled out a scold. Why did you come here? Do you know how dangerous it is? You being reckless is one thing, but after just recovering from an illness, climbing a mountain? Do you know how bad the weather is today? His yelling made me flinch. I snapped back, and why are you here? You were in another state at noon and now on the mountain by evening. Half a day isn't enough to drive. How'd you get here so fast? Did you risk your life? Quiet for a few seconds, he sighed. I heard you were sick. I had no other choice. Seeing him so exhausted hurt my heart. I reached out to smooth his brow. Simon, you've got to tell me. After everything you've done for me, you have to let me know, okay? Finally, a hint of tenderness softened his sharp features, though his words stayed proud. What's there to say? I'm the man, I'm supposed to protect you. But I want to protect you, I said. You protect so many. I don't want to be behind you, Simon. I want to protect you. His lashes were damp, trembling slightly, then he laughed softly. Simon, you're too proud. Would it kill you to just relent once? Karina, I have relented. Those 7 words hit me, reminded me of that dream. Torrential rain, the dark cave entrance, Simon barely standing against the wind, yet kneeling, praying to the mountaintop with clasped hands. Pride kneeling, strength trembling in fear. As the storm eased, the sunset broke through. I cleared my throat and forced a natural tone. Hey, should we get back together? He looked, stayed quiet for a second, then stood up suddenly. No. I froze, like tossed into a fryer. Was I insane? Mad for throwing myself at him to be humiliated. Without time to react, I just wanted to leave. But he suddenly turned around, dropped to one knee before me. Karina, will you marry me? In that moment, clouds lifted and sunset haloed him. My eyes burned. You scared me to death. His eyes were still red, but now he was smiling. Karina, marry me, I'm begging. That got a smile out of me. Remembering how Ken spilled the beans, I decided to help him a bit. Sure, but I gotta say. I paused for effect, watching Simon's face grow visibly tense. Ken didn't really take your handcuffs. He took a breath, then admitted, I hid them myself. I raised an eyebrow. Why'd you blame him like that? I didn't want him to make things hard for you, had to find an excuse to look around. I let out a long oh. I heard the officer once climbed a mountain in the middle of the night to pray for me, almost lost his life doing it. I joked about it, but my voice changed unexpectedly. Simon, why are you such a hopeless romantic? He paused a bit, a hint of embarrassment in his eyes. Who told you that? It was an accident. But have you ever thought about what would happen if I woke up and you were gone? I wouldn't be able to go on. His cheeks tensed, then he said, if you disappeared from this world, I wouldn't want to protect anyone else. I felt my heart melt. Finally, I squatted in front of him. I've brought up marriage once, and getting back together twice. Why did you refuse each time? He suddenly pulled me into his arms. There's a reason I didn't agree to marriage, and getting back together should have been my call. So, are you going to marry me or not? He held me down, his right arm wrapped around me, holding my hands tightly. If you don't, I'll have to force you. I buried my face in his shoulder, laughing so hard that I got tears and snot all over him. No need to force it, I'll marry you. Simon acted fast, setting our engagement date for September 19th, about 2 weeks later. Every time our old friends heard the news, they'd be shocked, asking, you two had such a big fallout, I thought you'd never reconcile. And then you drop an invite on me, just like that? That's bold. Officer, you always seemed so prideful. Now you're going back to patch things up. If I'm not wrong, Karina must have reached out to you first, right? Every time, Simon would glance at me with a playful smile, then casually tell the person on the other end. Well, you'd be wrong. Karina's someone I nearly lost my life begging to come back to me.